the coincidence is that the same week we were scheduled to go in a cruise, and we were the last flight from Newark to Miami before it was the airport was before Miami airport accepted any other flights. That night we felt the impact of Katrina when it crossed over the Florida Peninsula before we got into the Gulf, and it was scary. But once it got to the Gulf, again the Katrina intensified and became a major storm that hit New Orleans. And we heard the news about Katrina and everything else while we were in the cruise.
Do you remember anything else?
Yes, that was devastating. That people were in New Orleans and no one helped them because this city was never prepared for a major catastrophe of this magnitude. And we learned so much from that.
During Hurricane Katrina, we were traveling to Miami, Florida, and when we arrived on the last flight out of Newark, I remember it was a fairly rough landing because it was very windy and raining. We then went to, my uncle had picked us up at the airport. We were going to my cousin's house for dinner, and he ended up having to stay overnight, and my parents were not able to go to where they were going to be staying because of the weather, so we were all stranded at my cousin's that night. So there was like 10 of us all in one house, and then the next morning when we were very fortunate, the lights flickered, but we were very fortunate that we did not lose power. But when we left the house that morning and went for a ride, the trees were down. There had been some devastation in some areas of Miami, but we were very fortunate that not where we were. The port, Miami, we were leaving on a cruise, and the port of Miami was closed, and we were unsure if we were going to be able to leave on the cruise or not because of the port being closed. But we were fortunate because the port reopened on Sunday. We were just a little bit delayed, so we didn't leave at exactly the time we were supposed to leave that Sunday. We left on a little bit later, but we were able to leave on our vacation.
What I remember is on TV they showed all the water flooding the city, people on their roofs waiting to be rescued by boat, and then since they didn't have a place to evacuate people, they brought them to, I think it's called the Superdome, their stadium there, and they kind of herded all the people in there together. And I think the problem was there may not have been electricity, the sanitation was really bad, and I don't know if people had food, so it was really kind of just a mess. And I remember people like sleeping out in the open on the highways and things, and people were dying out there, and they tried to get people help, but I guess they did not imagine that they would have to rescue so many people, and it was an unprecedented event, and they just couldn't handle it.
All right. Is there anything else you remember?
Not really. That's it. It's there's a lot of stuff on TV about the way it was handled, and a lot of the politicians arguing about the different ways it should have been handled. But since it was an unprecedented event, I guess they did the best they could.